welcome to the Usagi Podjimbo podcast. I'm your host, Mike, and this is a podcast all about the Usagi Yojimbo series and my journey going through it, reading each and every issue I could get my hands on. But we are looking at today issue 8 of the Dark Horse run. This one in particular, the story is called A Promise in the Snow. But before we start that, let's get a little housekeeping underway. If you're new, thanks for listening. If you're an old listener, returning listener, thanks for listening as well. I know I've been away for about a week. My scheduling's a little off, and I'm sorry about that. If anybody was clamoring to listen to the next episode, that's my bad. I took the week off just to rejuvenate myself. And I feel like I'm back and ready to go. I feel like if you want to help the podcast grow, tell your friends, share the podcast, rate and review the podcast, leave some feedback on Spotify or Apple Podcast. That's much appreciated, I have to say. Thanks for listening, and let's get into this particular issue of the comic book. We start out with Usagi trekking through the snow. He's like, oh yeah, I know there's a route over here, there's mountains. He said, oh, there's a route, there's mountains over here. He said, oh yeah, I know. I can't believe I followed Gin's advice. There's not even a pathway in these mountains. And you see him covered from head to toe. He's wearing his hat and his, I guess it's like a straw cape kind of cover up, kind of. And Gin apparently told him about this quick passageway through the mountains, a shortcut, and he's like, this isn't a shortcut. Gin kind of lied to me, or maybe Gin was just remembering stuff. And he says, he's probably gonna get lost and freeze to death, Usagi says. He's like, I hope Gin finds me so he knows what happened to me, and maybe I'm just gonna go haunt Gin, which I find really funny. This is actually a really funny start to this particular issue, I have to say. Usagi is continuing through the snowy mountains, and he sees a crossroad marker, and he gets kind of excited. He's like, yeah, finally a crossroad marker. I can, get back on the road and go from here, and I can probably get out of this winter wonderland hellscape, maybe. I don't know if he's really having like the best time ever in the snow. He notices that there are footprints, a lot of footprints actually, and he's like, oh, we're all going the same direction, whatnot. Maybe I can catch up with them. He happens to go running through the snow, and he notices that there's some blood actually on the ground. He comes up to this man. He's like, oh, are you okay? Who did this? And the man's like, bandits, please save my master merchant Araki. And sadly, the pig man dies. Sad, and he could not save him, but he tells him with his last breath, save my master. And Usagi remarks that at least it'll be easy to track their trail. And he comes up to these bandits actually going after these men, and they're trying to get Araki away from them, and they're trying to hold them off. As Usagi rushes in, he says the servants' courage is greater than their abilities, and they sadly get taken out, but not to Usagi's abilities, because Usagi runs in charging and just takes all these guys out and goes after all these bandits. Sadly, the merchants don't really fare so well. Usagi takes them all out, and it's very, very awesome, quick fight. And I have to say, I love all the little details that Stan Sakai adds. I know he kind of sort of reuses bad guy designs a little bit occasionally if they're not important. But we see one of them has a scar over his eye, and I think one's missing some teeth at one point. But they all very much look like generic bad guys, except for one. One has a scar over his eye. He has a story to tell, I feel like. Usagi ends up finding Araki, and Araki ends up fainting, and Usagi basically has some medicine and some bandages. He patches up Araki, and he's like, we got to get out of here. We got to find you a doctor. He won't make it through the night. and Usagi hears somebody call Samurai. Usagi looks up and he sees a young girl, and the young girl happens to actually know Araki. She actually knows Araki so well. This is actually Araki's daughter, Fumi, and Usagi points out that Araki needs a doctor. We got to get out of here. I'm not really familiar with this region, he says, but the bandages should help at this moment. Usagi happens to give Araki some medicine to help him sleep on the journey. He tells Araki that, your daughter's here. She's going to help us. We're going to get through this. Araki faints, and Usagi tells Fumi to go gather all the straw capes she can get her hands on, and basically we're going to make a makeshift not like a gurney, but I don't remember what exactly they were called, but you would drag the person on them behind you, and you could carry a body more easily. Maybe it's kind of like a body sled. I don't really know what the name is. I'm just going with body sled. As Usagi and Fumi are walking through the snow, trudging through the snow, it's been about an hour since they've met, and they've gone on this trek to get to Fumi's village. Usagi asks, "Why were you traveling through these mountains, Fumi?" And Fumi says, "My dad had to make a pilgrimage to the temples, and the bandits were after the money that he was going to offer to the priests, apparently." Which I'm guessing he got jumped on the way. I don't know. But he did get jumped on the way. He got attacked on the way, I guess, to the temple, or maybe he was returning from the temple, I guess, in a sense now. I don't know. It's actually kind of vague almost. As they're walking along, Usagi tells Fumi to brush off the snowflakes off her father. And Usagi is like, "The snow is falling a lot heavier. It's impossible to see any landmarks." Fumi's like, "Hey, don't worry, Usagi-san. I know where my village is. We're going to go this way." And right now they're on the side of a mountain, walking along the ledge. Usagi's like, this ledge path has snow on it. It's very narrow. It's more than usual. And Fumi's like, "Well, it's okay. We'll just be a little bit more careful," as they're on the edge of this cliff carrying this body. And Usagi is like, "Oh my God, we're slipping, or your dad's slipping. Fumi, quick, grab your father." And they're trying to pull up Araki off the edge of this cliff. Araki almost goes over, but luckily with teamwork and perseverance, Usagi and Fumi are able to save Araki at this point. The snow has stopped falling, and after another hour, Usagi and Fumi are continuing on through the snow. They hear this noise like roar. Usagi says, "Run, Fumi, we can't get caught out in the open." And Fumi's like, "I'm running as fast as I can. Save your breath and for the running." And they're running pretty fast, and we see this thing of snow come after Usagi and Fumi. And I thought it was going to be an avalanche, but it wasn't an avalanche at all. It is a herd of Tokage. If you don't remember what exactly Tokage are the little green dinosaur creatures that populate the Usagi universe. And these ones very much do not look happy at all, I have to say. As they're charging Fumi and Usagi, Fumi is panting. Usagi-san, I can't run any farther, she says. "Head towards the trees." And they turn back and at a gasp, and they're surrounded by these Tokage. Usagi says, "A pack of wild Tokage hunger has made them bold." And oh boy, these little guys look very much mad. And I have to say, in this one panel where the Tokage are circling Usagi and Fumi, Usagi has his swords drawn. Fumi just has a stick. She's going to fight them off with the stick. They very much, the scale of the Tokage look a lot larger than normal, I feel like, when it comes to their size. It very much reminds me of the velociraptors in like Jurassic Park series, and how like they're just circling Usagi, looking for a meal. They're like, I bet rabbit tastes good today. Usagi is ready to fight. He tells Fumi to stay back, and she's like, no, I need to protect my father. One of the Tokage ends up lunging, jumping at Usagi. They end up actually all double and triple teaming Usagi, ganging up on him, attacking him, biting him, scratching him. Usagi ends up falling down, but he slices and dices and gets back up. He ends up taking out all the Tokage in a very fierce fight, and they all end up, well, most of them end up running away, except for one. Apparently, Usagi killed one of them. Usagi asks if he's panting a lot, because Usagi did a lot of work. He asks Fumi if she's okay, and she's like, yes, I'm okay, Usagi-san. Only one of them got past you. Like I said, only one of them died. Usagi's like, we gotta get out of here. More of them may come. And Fumi's like, but you're hurt, we can't go. Usagi's like, I made a promise to you. We're going to get through this. I'm going to get your dad to the village and save his life. Usagi very much looking worse for wear. He is very much disheveled, still carrying this body. Fumi is very excited that beyond this pass, her town is there. She says, Usagi says, I don't like the look of this pass that they're going through. There's too much snow up there. And he says, I wonder if the Yama-uba, which is a mountain witch, could be lying in wait to bury unsuspected travelers like us. And Usagi says, well, come on, Fumi, be quiet, she says. Usagi, struggling to pull the body through the snow, starts grunting, and some sounds from the body sled start to make some noise, and that actually seems to cause an avalanche. And Usagi's like, oh my god. You can just see with the look on his eye, no words need to be spoken. Oh my god, there's an avalanche. He's like, run, Fumi, run. And this scene is so intense. It's very, very well drawn how Stan depicts the avalanche, and how seeing like the scale of it all. It's just so crazy how Usagi is so tiny and the avalanche is so big and huge. Usagi happens to barely get away from the avalanche. He is lying in the snow, a little bit of ways from the body of Fumi's father, and we hear, Usagi-san, get up. Fumi is touching, kind of shaking Usagi. He's like, we have to get up. We have to keep going. Night is falling. You'll die if you stay out at night. Get up. You promised to save my father's life. You promised. As she's crying, you promised. Usagi wills himself up, pushes himself up. He's like, I promised. And she's like, that's right, Usagi. That's right. Keep going. As night falls, Usagi, Fumi, and Araki make it to Fumi's village. We transition from that to two people sitting in a house. They're talking about the snow and how it's affecting them and whatnot. And the woman says she's been too generous with her neighbors recently. We have to refuse some people and whatnot. But they get a knock at the door and like, who is it? Who is this? Is that you, Ryuzo? Apparently, but no, it's not Ryuzo at all. It's Usagi coming in, falling in through the doorway, unconscious basically. And we get this scene where Usagi is lying down. He has this contraption on his head, which I remember this contraption. I think this was in the issue. Usagi, I think, used this. Please correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not going back to look for it. But it was in the issue where Usagi meets... what's his name? Why did I lose my train of thought? Now I remember. It was in the issue where Usagi meets up with Kenichi again. When Kenichi got like drunk and stuff, and we found out exactly like what happened to him after he like lost the duel between him and Usagi and whatnot. I remember Usagi using some kind of contraption to help like ease like Kenichi's like hangover almost. Very similar to this. Please let me know if I'm wrong or right, because I want to say I remember this. It might be a Mandela effect, or I think I'm remembering it this way, but I could be wrong. Usagi wakes up and he hears somebody say, "Oh, good, you're awake. We're getting worried about you." Usagi's like, "You are? Who are you?" And we find out this is Araki's wife. She thanks Usagi because of him. Her husband is actually still alive. And Usagi's like, "Oh, no. I cannot take all the credit for this. Fumi, your daughter actually helped out quite a bit." And Araki's wife is like, "Daughter, I don't understand. Fumi, she led me to the town. Without her, I wouldn't have been lost." And the wife of Araki gasps. Usagi's like, "Oh, why are you so pale? What is wrong? Where's Fumi? Where is she?" And Araki's wife starts to sob. And apparently, from what we hear from Araki's wife, Fumi fell ill, and the doctor could not save her. She died a week ago. That is why her husband went to the temple to pray for her soul. And Usagi is like, "Oh my God, really?" And we see him cover his face, and he becomes like really sad. And she's like, "What do you know about Fumi? Is there some sort of cruel joke?" she says. And Usagi gets up and walks away, and he's like, "Dead?" And she's like, "Samurai." Usagi opens the window and looks out and kind of yells. And we see, "I kept my promise, Fumi." And we see out in the distance a very ghostly silhouette of Fumi herself. And that is where this particular issue ends. And oh boy, for a standalone issue, man, this one was pretty crazy. I really didn't know what to expect at first. I thought it was going to be kind of more like an escort mission type thing, which it was, But to see Usagi in a different environment, which we really don't get to see him in, which is snow, which we've seen him here and there in like snowy environments, but seeing how he reacts to it, how he adapts to the situation he is in, is really interesting. Like very much like a survival tale, a tale of survival, I feel like. And seeing how he reacts to it is very interesting to see. And man, he gets put through the ringer, I feel like. And it's very interesting, like, reading this one for the first time and then going back and reading it. I feel like there's a little foreshadowing that Fumi is a ghost because of the way, like, Stan draws her and how she kind of interacts with Usagi. But when you think about it, like, in reality, like from, like, I guess ghost lore or normal ghost lore, like, ghosts can't really touch things. Well, I guess they kind of can. So I was really confused, like, why she was able to touch Usagi and gather up, like, the blankets and stuff and whatnot. But she never actually really touched her father, which was interesting to see. She only touched Usagi, and to see, like the sheer force of Usagi in his willpower is very awe-inspiring. To, like, even when he's beaten and down, Usagi keeps his promises, and just like powers through it, which is so crazy to think of. I was really pleasantly surprised by this. I really wasn't expecting it to be a ghost story at all. So I was like, oh boy, like when that happened, I was like, whoa, that really blew me away in that sense. And I like I've said before, I've always liked when Stan Sakai brings in like the supernatural element to the Usagi series, and this one being like just like a single short story, it's really good. I feel like like, it's not, overall, it's not one of my, like, all-time favorites, but I do feel like, in all honesty, it's a really, really solid story. And it's a very, very quick read, too. Like, I was very surprised, like, how fast I read it. I wasn't really bogged down with, like, a whole bunch of dialogue, and the artwork is all stunning and amazing. I love the misdirect of the Tokage, because I originally thought that they were gonna be like an avalanche, and it turns out they weren't an avalanche at all. And there's no real big bad in this particular issue, which is fun to see as well. Very much changes things up here and there. The only big bad, I have to say, is probably Mother Nature herself. It's just really funny, and really funny to think about, like, how supernatural, how superstitious Usagi is with stuff. Like, I know he ran into, like, what was it, like, autumn, like the embodiment of, like, autumn or fall, I think, at one point. So, like, to see, like, Usagi to be so superstitious about, like, oh, the witch is gonna get us, and bury us in the snow, is kind of funny to see, like, how superstitious he actually really is. Luckily, there was no, like, witch to bury them in the snow. They got out of there just fine. Can you imagine it if, like, they did get buried in the snow by a witch, like a random, like, weather witch just popped up or whatever, that would be pretty kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy to add something to that if it ever did. But yeah, I really did enjoy this. It's a very heartbreaking story too, because Usagi he did a good thing, but he ended up opening all these old wounds-ish, in a sense, of the death of their daughter. And, like, how do you go explaining, oh yeah, I saw your daughter in the snow, she helped me through this, and, like, people not looking at you like you're not crazy to be like, yeah, no, Usagi, like, our daughter is dead. So it's interesting to see, like, how Usagi saw Fumi, but, like, nobody else saw Fumi at all. Luckily, Usagi was able to keep his promise. Imagine if he didn't keep his promise, we would definitely have, like, a witch haunting, or not a witch, a ghost haunting Usagi for the rest of the series, because he did not keep his promise, probably. But yeah, all around, good issue. Good, solid issue. I like that Stan Sakai plays with these different things, different elements. Just a fun little side story for the bigger things that are coming, which we all know. Grass Cutter is coming. Yes, we are going to cover Grass Cutter. We're going to get to it very quickly, and it's going to cover, like, probably, like, the rest of this book. I think is all mostly Grass Cutter, or set up for Grass Cutter, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. Please let me know if I'm wrong. But let me know, how should I cover Grass Cutter, because I know there's some weird things with, like, the prologue and whatnot. And let me know your thoughts. But anyways, guys and gals, thanks for listening. You can find me at the Usagi Podjimbo Facebook page. That's where I post all my episodes. I also post the episodes on the Usagi Yojimbo fan page on Facebook. Interact with me on the Usagi Podjimbo Facebook page. I love when people talk to me or talk to other people on there. We're like 135 members strong on there. I'm always very surprised. I've said this before. Always very surprised that people still want to listen. Even though I'm sorry I took a break. I'm sorry I had to take a break. But eventually we're going to get through Usagi Yojimbo. I feel like I'm going really slow sometimes. Maybe I should bump it up to do 2 episodes a week. I don't know. But yeah, it is what it is. Hope you guys are still enjoying this podcast. I'll catch you guys on the next episode of the podcast. Stay safe. Make sure to go read some Usagi Yojimbo, as well as tell your friends about Usagi Podjimbo. Thanks for listening. Stay safe out there.